I have 5 minutes on the clock for the affirmative, beginning when you're ready.
Yes, I have to switch gears because I'm still on my negative case. Sorry. Here we go. All right, judges ready? Looks like the 3 judges are ready. All right, is my opponent ready?
Yes.
Sounds great. 5 minutes on the clock, starting right now. Our current energy system is in dire need for new change. According to worldbank.org, electricity costs have gone up by 50% on average in 2022. After Russia's war in Ukraine started, energy prices have skyrocketed and become unaffordable. CNBC shows that 20% of American families are unable to pay their electric bills or had to skip on another necessity, such as water or food. The current energy crisis is financially hitting the average American like a train, and we need to implement this policy to solve it with a sustainable, efficient, and affordable solution. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan, and today I'll represent the pro side of the resolution. The U.S. should significantly increase its spending on nuclear power development. This debate should be judged using the two worlds analysis framework, meaning whichever team can provide a better world than the alternative shall win. Some definitions to start out with. U.S., as in the U.S. federal government, is obligated to take a preferred course of action. Significantly, a change greater than 25% for the U.S. tax code, spending to use money, nuclear power, electricity produced from nuclear reactors. Next, I will continue on with my plan. Under my proposal, the Jensen-Flak Energy Bill, we will increase funding to building nuclear power plants by $2.25 trillion, with an additional $750 billion allocated to the future purchasing of resources to generate energy. With a lower cost of producing nuclear energy, this policy will pay for itself and start on net, saving the U.S. money afterwards. The locations for this policy will be happening around the Great Lakes, mostly underground. Now I will continue with reasons on why to adopt this policy. Let's begin. Our first contention is safety. After we extract the energy from uranium, nuclear waste is created. Some may call this dangerous, but humans have found a way to almost permanently store this toxic residue. According to popularmechanics.com, Finland has a system where the nuclear waste is stored deep underground with copper and clay, which can last for 100,000 years. Another common argument against the resolution is the possibility for nuclear meltdown, but this is so incredibly unlikely. Secondly, we have a robust cooling system and advanced technology to make sure that malfunctions don't happen, according to worldnuclear.org. According to statista.com, the mortality rate of nuclear energy is 90 deaths per 1,000 terawatt hour, while coal comes in at 100,000 deaths. Unlike fossil fuels, nuclear energy has a good way to store away the toxic residue and prevent malfunctions. Our plan provides a safe and efficient way to get energy while preserving the benefits. Our second contention is lower energy prices. The basic rules of supply and demand state that higher supply will lead to lower prices, assuming demand stays put. Under my proposal, more energy will be put into the market, lowering the prices. According to IEA.org, more energy in the market will lower the overall price for electricity. According to AmericanProgress.org, this plan would save the average American household more than $500 annually. As stated before, the rising costs for energy along with inflation crisis are making families unable to pay for their electric bills. This policy will help those in need by lowering their electric bills and giving them access to a vital resource in today's world. Our third contention is efficiency. Subpoint A, 91% capacity. According to energy.gov, the capacity of nuclear energy is 91%. This means that even during times of high demand, there will always be energy being created. According to appenergy.com, one of the largest factors for price fluctuations in the energy sector is availability. When there's no energy being produced, that jacks up the price as supply is down. Since nuclear energy runs 91% of the time, the massive changes in price will be mitigated. My plan provides energy when it's needed, as well as a stable energy market. Subpoint B, cost efficiency. After the initial investment into power plants, nuclear energy is very cheap to produce. Whether that be thorium or uranium, America's Quarterly.org states that the cost to produce nuclear energy is about half that of coal. Nuclear energy will provide low-cost, affordable, and available energy to the American people. Whether that be from uranium recycling or carbon pricing or both, nuclear energy is a cheap source for both. It's a cheap source for energy, much less than that of other sources. This will have the impact of not only lowering prices for the consumer, but also for the government. In conclusion, my role will have many benefits that will help us all. In the world where my policy is implemented, a doubling of our nuclear reactors will lead to massive benefits. We will expand one of the safest energy systems that has ever been made. Being by far the most safe source of energy, my world will have many less deaths as a result of accidents. Another massive benefit in my world is that we will have a greater supply of energy, meaning lower energy prices. By lowering prices, everyone will reap the benefits, as everyone's energy bills will be cut. This could relieve inflationary pressure, leading to economic growth. Also, we will be implementing an energy source that has extremely high capacity, meaning that energy prices will stabilize and there will always be energy when it's needed. Finally, our world will be saving a lot of money by using an extremely cheap source for energy that will pay for the initial investment and will lower prices even more for not only the constituency, but also for the government. It's time to pass the Jensen-Kwak energy bill. A vote for the pros, a vote for a better energy system. Thank you for your time.
We now have 2 minutes on the clock for the negative to cross-examine the affirmative, beginning when you're ready.
Okay, give me a minute to pull up my questions. Okay, judge ready? Or judges ready? Okay, opponent ready?
Yes.
I'll be beginning my time now. Has the Jensen-Kwak plan ever been used in the real world?
In the past, yes, we have invested a lot of money into nuclear power, and I believe unless you're denying the existence of nuclear power, yes, indeed, nuclear power has been invested in before.
Not nuclear power. I'm specifically using the Jensen-Kwak plan. Has that certain plan ever been used?
No, this is a new proposal that was proposed by this certain 14-year-old who did a lot of research.
Oh, I understand. Uranium, which is the main nuclear fuel, will run out in about 80 years. What is your plan to address this?
Well, in my plan, I believe I've stated that there's other alternate sources of nuclear energy. I've proven this because there's other sources such as thorium, which is a much more widely available resource that will go on for much longer than uranium. So if we do supposedly run out of uranium and recycling does not cover for that, then we can use thorium.
What are your sources that thorium will last longer than uranium?
I don't believe I have that at the moment, but I will give it to you if you request. I will give it to you during rebuttal.
Okay. The United States currently has more than 90,000 metric tons of nuclear waste, which the government currently has no permanent solution for. You've already mentioned that your plan to dispose of this waste is to put it underground. Where in the United States would you put this underground?
Well, that's a great question, but I would say that the best places for this to be stored would probably be somewhere near an area that has a great source of water or clay and that is relatively cool. So I would probably say in the northern United States, either in probably somewhere in around like, I forgot that state's name. I think it's like somewhere around Illinois, the places where it's like cooler and can store the energy better and the nuclear waste better.
Thank you. The world has had many nuclear disasters such as Chernobyl, Fukushima, and even right here in the United States, 3 Mile Island. What is your plan to prevent such disasters in the future? I recognize that you have said that the chances of nuclear disaster are very, very low. However, I have not seen how you will address disasters in the future, so I didn't quite catch it.
Okay, so time is up, but can I still respond to this point?
It's up to judges.
Okay, sounds good. So my response to that is, so the first example is Fukushima, that was caused by tsunami. In the Midwest, there are no tsunamis. Number 2, Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island were caused by cooling problems, and we have used in our plan that we will invest into better cooling systems for our new nuclear plants. Therefore, we can prevent such things from happening again.
Okay, thank you. I think we're over time, so that's going to be it for me.
We are now going into a period of prep time. That'll take 2 minutes time. I now have 7 minutes on the clock for the negative, beginning when you're ready.
All right, judges ready. Opponent ready.
Yes.
Sounds good. I'll be beginning my time now. Hello, my name is Kai Makrodakis, and today I'll be debating on the negative side of the topic. The United States should significantly increase spending on nuclear power development. In this speech, my opponent, I agree with my opponent's definitions. His definitions are completely fine with me, so I'll adopt them. And I also adopt the 2 worlds analysis used by my opponent. I was planning to use cost-benefit analysis, meaning I think the debate should put aside that percent for benefits and costs. But seeing as the world will probably be better if there are more benefits and costs anyway, I've decided to adopt my opponent's framework. In this speech, first I'll give my constructive or reasons why I think I should win. Then I'll quickly recap my points, discuss something that popped up in cross-sex really quickly, then go over a rebuttal of my opponent's case and refute it, explain how it's not true, and then I'll explain how I'm winning based on the framework that me and my opponent have selected so far. With all that being said, let me jump right into my contentions. Contention 1, safety. So when doing anything in life, from piloting an airplane to climbing a mountain to going to the nearest McDonald's, there is always the possibility for an accident. This obviously holds true for nuclear energy as well. To illustrate my point, look at the Chernobyl accident, possibly the worst nuclear accident in history. The Chernobyl accident was the result of a flawed reactor design operated with poorly trained personnel. According to the World Nuclear Association, 2 plant workers died in the night of the incident, and a further 28 people died within a few weeks as a result of acute radiation syndrome. Acute radiation syndrome, or ARS, was later confirmed in 134 cases, and as I mentioned, this resulted in 28 fatalities. The affirmative has already said that these disasters are extremely rare. However, he has not dismissed the fact that they happen. I will mention something that happened in cross-examination a little bit later regarding these nuclear disasters. Contention 2, limited supply. Subpoint A, uranium. Nuclear energy is not a renewable energy source. Uranium is limited. Even though it's not a fossil fuel, the risk that uranium will eventually run out exists. According to phys.org, the world supply of viable uranium, the most common nuclear fuel, will only last for about 80 years. I realize my opponent has talked about thorium as another possible source for uranium, but he does not have any sources to back up that it will last longer than uranium or even be a better option than uranium. Thorium is also mainly untested. It has only been used in lab experiments and a small project in China. It has not been real-world tested in the United States, which is what this debate is referring to. Moving on to subpoint B of contention 2, water. Believe it or not, nuclear power needs a lot of water. A lot of water. How much, you ask? The Nuclear Energy Institute estimates that per megawatt hour, a nuclear power reactor consumes between 1,514 to 2,725 liters of water. Compare this to gas, which only needs 700 to 1,200 liters of water. From this simple statistic, we can see that nuclear energy consumes a huge amount of water. The country already has a water problem, with an article titled, "Why is America Running Out of Water?" by National Geographic, saying that within as little as 50 years, the United States could see their freshwater supply reduced by as much as a third. And I fear that spending more on nuclear power could drive the United States much sooner than we like. Contention 3, impact on the Earth. Subpoint A, nuclear waste. The biggest impact of nuclear energy to the environment is radioactive waste. Spent fuel canisters are still dangerously radioactive. Exposure to radioactive waste can lead to cancerous growth in humans and genetic damage or mutation to plants and animals. My opponent said that his plan to deal with radioactive waste is to bury it underground, such as other countries have done. He even gave a sample location they might do this in cross-examination. However, my opponent has not provided any plan for this. He has not stated how much it will cost. He has not stated the time frame for this. There are a lot of what ifs in my opponent's case. Also, a quick question that I would like to ask you judges. If nuclear waste, or if disposing of nuclear waste is so simple as burying a hole in the ground, why haven't we done it much sooner? This is not a complicated decision. It's one that's very easy to reach to. There has to be a reason why America has not done that yet. Now we'll move on to subpoint B of contention 3, mining. Another example of how nuclear energy is not good for the environment is the mining and enrichment of uranium. They're not environmentally friendly processes. Although open pit mining for uranium is safe for miners, the process leaves behind radioactive particles which can cause erosion and even pollute nearby sources of water. Why would we spend money on something that is quite literally polluting something that all humans need to live? Again, my opponent has brought up thorium, and I'm not sure about the mining of thorium. However, uranium right now is the best option that we have. It is tested. Thorium is not. Now, I'll quickly recap my points. They are accidents, limited energy supply, uranium, water, impact on the earth, nuclear waste, and mining. Now, I'd like to go to my rebuttal to refute everything my opponent said, and also mention something that came up in cross-examination. So in cross-examination, right at the end, before I could answer, my opponent said that Fukushima was caused by a tsunami. And he said tsunamis do not occur on inland United States. However, tsunamis do occur on the coast of the United States, on places that are bordered by on borders of the United States. So something like Fukushima could very well happen again. Okay, now I'm going to go by line rebuttal to refute everything my opponent has said. First off, he brings up the Jensen-Platt plan, and this is the counter plan that he will be using for this debate. His first contention there was safety. And one of the big things that I've already mentioned previously in my speech is how we can get rid of nuclear waste. We can simply put it underground. However, again, my opponent has not provided any plan on how we can do this. Then my opponent talks about how coal produces more deaths than nuclear waste. This seems like a classic case of utilitarianism to me. Utilitarianism is saying is choosing the best approach, or is saying that the best approach is the one that serves or saves the most lives. However, the ends don't always justify the means in utilitarianism. For example, let's say I kill someone and then give the organs from that person to 5 other people and save their lives. Again, the ends don't necessarily justify the means because I just committed murder. This is an example of utilitarianism, which is essentially what my opponent is using here. Seeing as I'm running out of time, I'll respond to the rest of my opponent's points in my final speech. And thank you for time.
All right, we now have 2 minutes on the clock for the affirmative to cross-examine the negative, beginning when you're ready.
Okay. Judges ready? Are my opponents ready?
Yes.
All right, starting 2 minutes on the clock right now. So your debate seems to revolve around protecting the status quo. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Also, in the previous cross-examination, you asked for my source. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, then I will give you the source. Dare2think.org shows that thorium will last for around 40,000 years, even in an extreme scenario where we do use an extreme amount of thorium for nuclear energy. Are you aware of the fact that that's much more than you predicted in your constructive?
I didn't necessarily have a prediction. My constructive, I was simply asking if you had a source.
Okay, so then you claim that it's going to run out, though, right? Like you claim uranium is going to run out.
Yes, uranium will run out and thorium will too. You just gave a timeline for it. It will eventually run out.
Okay, so since you're protecting the status quo, I assume that fossil fuels are going to last 40,000 years too, right?
That is not true. Fossil fuels will last shorter than 40,000 years. I am aware of that.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. Anyways, next question. So in your constructive, you were talking about how tsunamis occur in the US. Oh, excuse me. Are you aware that in my plan, we're not going to be building them everywhere in the US? We're only going to build them in the Midwest near the Great Lakes?
I was not.
Okay, well, now you know. Amazing. And finally, what plan do you have to solve the problems that I brought up in my contentions, such as high energy prices? Is there any solvency to that in your plan?
Yes, the money that we wouldn't be spending on nuclear power development in the topic, that would go towards helping the problems that you brought up.
Okay, so subsidies, basically.
Excuse me?
So like subsidies?
Yes.
Directly handing money to the people.
Not necessarily people, any corporations that could help with the problems that you solved up, or that you brought up.
Okay, that's basically, okay, well, thanks.
That concludes
Thank
the
you.
cross-examination. I have 4 minutes on the clock for the affirmative, beginning when you're ready.
All right, are my judges ready? Is my opponent ready?
Go.
Amazing. All right, I believe this is 4 minutes on the clock for the affirmative side of the resolution, starting right now. Hello, everyone. As you may know, my name is Alan. Today, I represent the aft side of resolution. The U.S. should significantly increase its spending on nuclear power development. Let's get straight to rebuttal my opponent's points. Now, his first contention talks about how it's safety and that there's a great possibility for an accident. Chernobyl, Fukushima, Three Mile Island, I believe. Now, let's take a look. Okay, so under my sources and many other sources, it shows that these disasters are calculated into the stats. So that means that, for example, the deaths from Fukushima are calculated into the amount of energy produced per, I believe, 1,000 megawatt hour. So overall, it just shows that nuclear energy is much safer than others, even if there are accidents. On average, per unit of energy generated, nuclear energy is extremely safe compared to others. And also, my opponent brings up the issue of utilitarianism. So, okay, if it was 90 to 100, then that might be reasonable, but it's not reasonable simply due to the fact that it's 90 to 100,000. So essentially, my opponent's status quo defense is that they're defending 100,000 deaths per 1,000 megawatt hour. Well, mine is going to be only 90. So utilitarianism doesn't really work in this place simply due to the fact that we're reducing it by such a large scale that it will offset that. Contention 2, he was talking about a limited supply. So he agreed with me in cross-examination that yes, it would last for 40,000 years. And he agreed with me that in the status quo, which he is defending, fossil fuels will last for much less than 40,000 years. So I believe that this point should go to me because our side is more sustainable. Subpoint B, he was talking about water. Now let me introduce you to some news. In 2010 to 2019, Lake Superior rose 19 centimeters. Lake Erie rose 28 centimeters. Lake Michigan and Lake Huron rose by 44 centimeters. Rising sea levels in the Great Lakes is becoming a real problem, and it's even endangering Chicago. So why not just use up some of that water so we can stop that problem from happening? So this water usage could actually be a good thing because it may stop the flooding of big cities such as Chicago, Ontario, and Milwaukee. Contention 3, he was talking about the impact of radioactive stuff. Once again, my opponent really likes to criticize me for not having a plan, even though we absolutely do. It's to dig a hole deep underground, and we're going to insulate it with copper and put the radioactive waste inside and then cover it all with clay. Now, this has been proven in Finland, and it works for 100,000 years. Now, he also asked me, why are we not doing this right now? Well, that's because this technology is relatively new and it has been proven to work. So just because it's kind of new doesn't mean it's not going to work. Contention 4, he was talking about how it's going to pollute water. Once again, I don't really see how this is affected by my plan because it will not pollute the water. We have a safe burial ground for the pollution, for the nuclear waste. So I'm going to address some other things that my opponent said to me in cross-examination, just like he did. So he talked about how tsunamis occur in the US. Once again, we're not building it all over the US. And he also said he's just going to directly hand money to the people. Now, that's actually not a good idea, simply due to the fact that you're artificially jacking up demand, which will actually jack up the price along with it, so it won't solve the problem. Now, I'm finally going to give some rejoinders on what he said about my case. So he responded to my contention 1, talking about how we have no plan to bury it. Yes, we do. And he didn't respond to contention 2, so he basically concedes that it will lower the energy prices for the average consumer, which his plan will not. Contention 3, he concedes that we have higher efficiency levels and that it will be very, very efficient, cost efficient, and regular efficient. So overall, my opponent concedes a lot of my big case, and he basically concedes that my plan will be very efficient and very cost efficient for everyone. Thank you for your time.
All right, we have 5 minutes on the clock for the negative, beginning when you're ready.
All right. Let me pull up my time. Okay. Judges ready. Awesome. Opponent ready.
Yes.
I'll be beginning my time now. Hello, as you know, I am Kai Macrodakis. This is my final speech for the negative side of the topic. The United States should significantly increase spending on nuclear power development. As a quick reminder to our judges, the framework or weighing mechanism that me and my opponent have chosen for this debate is two worlds analysis, meaning that we both think that the winner of this debate should be the one that presents a better world regarding this topic. So first off, I'd like to provide a list of rejoinders, or I'll be responding to some things that my opponent said earlier in this speech, including finishing up my rebuttals from my first speech. So my opponent said that the cost for these nuclear power plants under his plan would be easy. It would be very well funded and easy to get this money. However, EPA.gov states that nuclear power plants will steadily price increase, or estimates that it will steadily price increase by $1.25 per kilowatt per year. And my opponent is talking about thorium and how that can last for 40,000 years. However, this works against him in this debate, because by then price will be much higher, and they might not even have enough money to even do thorium in the future. Okay, now I'd like to talk about some rejoinders that my opponent mentioned. I would like to rejoin those rejoinders, if you will. So in response to my opponent's, or in response to my rebuttal of my opponent's point about how he's saving more people by switching to nuclear, he's saying that 100 million people or 100,000 people are dying from coal. I've got the exact number, it's something along those lines, and that only 90 will be dying from nuclear energy. He's saying that I defend, or because I'm defending the status quo, I also defend all the deaths of the people. It was either 100,000 or 100 million. I hope my opponent will clear that up for us in his next speech. I certainly do not support all the deaths that are going on. And I'd also like to address something. My opponent seemed to be almost happy, if you will, that his case only killed about 90 people per year. That is not something to be happy about. If my opponent is so big into saving people's lives and providing a clean energy source, while doing that, it's why is he not endorsing clean energy or renewable energy in this debate, since it's wind and solar? A quick side note off this to my opponent, and most importantly to the judges, that was not a new point or a new plan brought up by me in this speech or in this debate. That last rebuttal was just something, or was simply a rebuttal. It is not a new point of mine. Now I'll move on to another one of my opponent's rejoinders. He was saying that they can actually use all the water that is flooding from Lake Superior to get to all the nuclear power plants, so it won't be going to waste. However, my opponent does not explain how we will transport the water from Lake Superior, whether this will be by trucks or by any other means. So I would judge discard that, as it seems more like something that would appear in a Dr. Seuss book than something that might actually work in real life. Then finally, one more thing I'd like to bring up is my opponent's counterplan that he is using in this debate. It is a fairly new counterplan. He agreed himself that it's a new concept, therefore it's not tested. We have no idea how it will work. We have no idea. It is not tested. This is a new plan, self-admittedly, that my opponent realized in cross-examination. Now I'd like to quickly go over a list of voters' reasons why I think my side is won. Voter number one, I went under the two worlds analysis framework that me and my opponent have brought up. Which world would you rather live in? A world with an untested plan where we're having to transport water from Lake Superior just to cool down our nuclear plants, a world where we're killing 90 people every year. Would you rather live in that world, or would you rather live in a world that is sticking to the status quo with other options in mind once we cross that bridge, or once we will cross the bridge when we come to it, in terms of fossil fuels? My opponent has not provided a date when fossil fuels will be up, so I can only assume that neither of us do have a date. Voter number two, this is a new plan, as I mentioned, by my opponents. We have no idea if it will work. Seeing as his whole case is based around this plan, I would take his whole case with a grain of salt, because everything is based off of this plan, and we have no idea if it will even work. And seeing as that is over my time, I'd like to thank you for listening, and I'd like to thank my opponent for a wonderful debate.
I have 3 minutes on the clock for the affirmative, beginning when you're ready.
Okay, judges ready? Is my opponent ready?
I'm good to go.
Amazing. 3 minutes on the clock for the affirmative side. Starting my time right now. Hello, everyone. My name is Alan. Today, I represent the affirmative side of the resolution. The U.S. is significantly increasing spending on nuclear power development. Let's get straight down into a second line by line of why I think I won each point, or at least defeated the point. Now, first of all, let's go on to the plan. So my opponent attacks my plan for not being tested. Well, I think it's pretty clear that I have a plan to solve the problem. So I would any day prefer a plan over no plan. And my opponent has no plan to solve my problems. So I believe that my plan is still better than no plan. Contention one, he's talking about how I'm really happy about 90 deaths, and that's really grim, and that renewables are better. So two things to respond to. Number one, I would be really happy if it was 90 deaths per terawatt hour. You know why? Because in the status quo, the coal industry is 100,000. So that's a reduction of 99.9% of the deaths. I would be pretty happy. Talking about number two, he was talking about how renewables are better. This is not true, because according to statistics.com, no other renewable comes even close to the mortality rate of nuclear power, because it's just so incredibly safe. So he drops my second contention, and then when I pointed out he dropped it again. So I believe that he concedes that this policy will create lower energy prices. Therefore, this will be a really big deal because Americans can't afford energy at the moment. We're in an energy crisis, and this is my plan will actually fix the problem. So once again, for my third contention, I pointed out this was a drop, and then he dropped that as well. So basically, he double conceded that my plan is extremely efficient, and the fact that it's going to be extremely efficient in terms of capacity and will limit fluctuations in the market. And he responded to subpoint B, talking about how the price will keep growing. So he basically admits that it's pretty cheap right now. So I would say that the best course for the government is to take advantage of this cheapness right now. Contention 1, he dropped my response to that. So he basically admits that yes, nuclear energy is safe. Contention 2, he said that too much money is going to make the 40,000 years go away. I don't see how those two things connect. Subpoint B of contention 2, he talks about how I have no plan to transport the water, even though I believe that there's something we call pipes. So we have a very good way of transporting that. And I believe that it's pretty clear how we're going to transport water from a lake into a nuclear facility. He also said that my plan sounds like a Dr. Seuss book, which is very interesting considering he has no plan. So I would say that's a non-existent Dr. Seuss book. Contention 3, he was talking about the impacts of radioactive stuff, and he dropped my response to that as well. So he basically admits that no, this trauma around radioactive waste is not really true, and I've proven that it's extremely safe. And if it really was that unsafe, then why would 20% of our energy be nuclear? If that was the case, then why are we all not dead from nuclear right now? Finally, he said that mining will pollute water, but I think I've thoroughly refuted this. I believe I've refuted all my opponent's points, and my case still stands. Thank you for your time.
And that concludes that debate.